All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless Dave here on the Harmless Dave channel, talking about stuff that people don't want me to talk about, from what I can gather, based on the amazing comments I get. I'm just so happy to have the comments open. Can you tell? Um, Doing what I do in real time for a few real people just like you and just like me. The comments are like the daily root canal. I go to the dentist just to maintain what I have left, and it's like a root canal. Every day, it's a root canal, and I hate it, but I continue to do it because supposedly it helps the algorithm, and the algorithm is my buddy. So I'm just trying to make the algorithm happy each and every day, doing what I do in real time for a few real people. All right, so I'm going to talk about Bono and how he is really happy about this new Canadian Prime Minister. He takes a shot at conservatives in Canada. Now, the media, they love to just dunk on so-called conservatives. I would say, folks, by the way, the definition of what it is to be a conservative has changed a lot. It's changed a lot. It's people who just want sanity. It's not, I mean, people who can figure out how many genders there are and stuff like that. Those are conservatives. I don't know. Those are just people. Those are normies. People that wake up in the morning and go, okay, dude, chick. All right. It's pretty easy. It's not that difficult. But for those in the elite media, whatever that is, I don't even know what that is. That's some sort of brainwashing cult at this point. But Bono, he's applauding this new guy in Canada, Mark Carney, said he's long admired Canada's multicultural values. That's code language. And believes the latest election result reinforces those ideals. Well, if you're in Alberta right now, you're thinking a little bit different than Bono. And I'll get to that shortly. He says, I'm so happy to speaking to you Canadians at this time in your political life. Why do we get into politics this deeply if you're Bono? I mean, you were, or I guess you still are, the singer of this Irish rock band. I mean, I do like the Rattle and Hum album. There are a couple of U2 albums. You go back to their early stuff like Boy, and I'm into some of that, but I don't listen to it anymore. But I used to like it. It's hard for me to really listen to stuff where the guy who is in charge of it, or the lead singer, or the chief songwriter, or whatever, is so like immersed in this stuff, and this is what he seems to care about most. Of course, he's mad because Trump joked around about making Canada the 51st state, because they would pay no taxes, and Trump would pay for this defense system, this Golden Dome thing, which I'm not really into, I'll be honest with you. But I think rather than, throwing tariffs on everything that they're supposedly selling us, Canada, I know they're selling us a lot of stuff that maybe we need, maybe we don't need. They do have a lot of trees up there, and they sell us lumber, which we kind of need. But maybe we can start to, harvest our own lumber, if that's the right term. So the Canadian Prime Minister, this is like the crux of this, says, clearly, Canada is an independent sovereign nation, and it will remain one. Well, that's interesting. So Bono weighs in on this, but this is what they're saying in Alberta. Alberta is doing this citizen referendum, and they're in talks right now of trying to separate from Canada because they like what Trump had to say, basically. Now, I don't think Alberta would become the 51st state, but that would be more in line with what a state could be. It would still be a ginormous state. But hey, so is Alaska, right? So they have this bill, Bill 54, the Election Statutes Amendment Act, and this is really just separating from Canada. And that's an interesting development. It's a citizen-led referendum. This isn't the government imposing its will, it's the people imposing its will on the government, as it should be. Um, Bill 54 would then increase the amount of time an applicant has to collect signatures, and in which case, when those signatures are submitted, this would be a referendum, which would actually allow Alberta to become its own little sovereign nation or state. Sounds like they're a little fed up with the centralized government. I think this is the way of the future, by the way, even here in the United States. I think at some point we need to get out of the contract. We need less of this centralized, top-down, crazy stuff where they try to enforce rules on different areas of the country. And in this case, Alberta is much different than, say, Ottawa, right? It's like Texas. Well, I should use a better example. I'll say Florida is much different than, say, Massachusetts, right? Way different. And we shouldn't have leadership that imposes a completely different agenda, whether that's through coercion or now we've got the courts doing it. So Bono here, looking at populism, he doesn't like populism. Populism is basically the people making up the government and saying, no, we don't want that kind of government. We want a government for the people and by the people, right? That's what we were founded on. So populism is just a new word which now is being thrown around, and it's a bad thing. We need smarter people. We need, as Bono does this thing where he says competence and thoughtful leadership. Again, those are buzzwords. Competence, what? Like what we had in 2024 here in the United States, that was competence. That was somebody who wasn't even driving the car or wasn't able to drive the car, and the keys should have been taken away. But, we're not going to ever get to the bottom of that, most likely. I don't know, folks. When I do this kind of commentary, I think to myself, this whole thing is hopeless. Like, government is hopeless. You try to make changes in government, and it's like whack-a-mole, and all of these people come out of nowhere to tell you can't do this, whether it's the courts, whether it's the protests. Cars are set on fire because that's the way to reform things, by causing problems and making people afraid to drive their car. If you own a Tesla, are you now worried that your Tesla is going to get torched? By the way, Elon's done. So I don't know if that's why he decided to go back to just being, like SpaceX and Tesla. I think that's enough, right? That's more than enough. That's probably harder than running the government, to be honest. But I don't know. You're never going to see changes. Things are just going to perpetuate. I mean, and who's to say the guy in whoever it is in 4 years, could be a woman too, we don't know, doesn't come in and just undo everything that's been done. The legislature can't get anything done. They're just useless. And the courts are obviously siding with Bono. They don't want any of this to happen. I mean, they're weighing in on things that, hey, foreign policy, we're in charge of foreign policy. You can't do that. You can't protect the country from threats, both foreign and domestic. You can't do that. That's nowhere to be found in the Constitution. Sure. I think it's in the oath, isn't it? But it's nowhere to be found. So I don't know, folks. I'm hoping Alberta starts a trend, and I think Saskatchewan might be in on that too. I don't know, but it's weird. It's weird because it's kind of like on either coast they don't want to do it. It's very much like the United States to some degree, the left coast and then the east coast, and some weird stuff that they want to impose on their citizens. What they're doing in Colorado too for parents' rights. I don't know if you get into this at all, but I have to eventually just turn it off. I have to turn it off and take Ruthie for a walk and just get out of myself, and not think too much about it. But this opens up a huge can of worms. What's competent, Bono? Is competent taxing your citizens and just and telling truckers that they can't have access to their bank accounts because they disagree with the government? That sounds like authoritarianism to me. But there's a new definition of authoritarianism, which has really taken hold here in the United States, and that's when there are criminals, right, that we want to get rid of. We want to deport them and send them back to their country of origin so they can deal with them. And that would, you would think, save the taxpayers like billions of dollars, at least millions. But that's wrong. That's not due process. All right. So we can determine if they're criminals, and then after that, which is still going to cost us a lot of money, can we then unload them after that? We'll see if it works out. Maybe this will all work out, but I'm getting to the point where I don't think the government is working anymore, because this experiment, like I tell people, it's even been said before. I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said the Constitution won't work if you don't have a moral and righteous population. If you have people that are constantly in grievance mode, this won't work. They're going to constantly complain because they don't want to do things themselves. They don't want to be part of fixing it. They want someone just to take care of them from womb to tomb. That is, if you can get out of the womb to get to the tomb. So just some random thoughts. I know I'm a little scatterbrained, but Bono, it's his fault, because Canada, in his eyes, they made the right decision. They didn't elect a Donald Trump type character who would have tried to fix things. They elected the status quo, and the status quo will just perpetuate this globalist mindset, this Borg, this virus, which will continue to metastasize and get worse. So that's it. Done.